What's up, YouTube? It's me, Simple Dave. Today I had a bit of a different kind of video. Usually I do gameplays for Airsoft, but today I do something different. It's more like an reaction, analyze, opinion video to the Clean House mission of Call of Duty Modern Warfare. It's, in my opinion, one of the better missions in that game. First to say, I'm a pretty big fan of that game. It's pretty good. I'm very happy with it. And why should my opinion matter? At the moment, I'm a game dev and training. I learn a lot of stuff and I do a lot of with video games. But more important, I spent 10 years in an infantry unit and I have a lot of experience with this kind of warfare and these things. So a bit of weight is on my opinion. So I have a few experience. I saw some things and I did it for a long time, over 10 years. So I have rapid experience, and so I saw a lot of things they did very good. They translated very good into a game, as good as possible a game could do it. But also some weird things from a development standpoint. It's the highest tier as you expected from a big developer like the Call of Duty developers. So, but let's dive into the gameplay, and I try to reflect what I see, what my opinion, what some things you might know, some things you maybe know, and you just need a feedback from somebody who knew it better. So, the mission takes place somewhere in London. It's more like an capture and kill mission, like military special forces unit would do it. But the interesting thing, it's happened in England, not somewhere in another country, but in their own country. SAS operator unit is there. That's the special thing about this mission. Police unit might act different. They wouldn't try to sweep into the building. They would surround it if they know there are baddies inside, and would offer them the possibility to surrender. And they don't want to go inside there and fight with them if there's the possibility for them to find a peaceful solution. But that is a military operation, and the military would act a bit different, or do act different in situations like this. If you had the possibility, you would clear a building like that from the upper floor, not from the lower levels. If the enemy is preparing for an attack and have some preparations for defending themselves, they would be usually in the lower levels. And as higher you get in the building, the preparations are more or less, and the chances are, and nobody would expect that you come from up, and they would expect you from coming from the main doors. And another different for this, usually operators like SAS and every Delta Force, Special Forces units, if they have the possibility to train before missions like this, they would do it not until they do it right. They do it as long as they don't do it wrong anymore. They would build the complete building with any intels they have, so that they have a perfect clone of that building, and so they can plan their mission. But they're also capable of going inside a building with lesser knowledge about it. But in this case, they would act very similar to a regular infantry unit, with the only benefit of being better equipped and better trained, have more time on the range, more shooting experience than a regular infantry unit. This ladder is interesting. Some ladders like this exist, but I never saw a ladder like this. It seems to be it has a telescopic stock in there, and it can be deployed by one push. I know this ladder is only like a telescoping thing. It's also very fast, but not as fast as this. Maybe this kind of ladder exists. This is a gear only reserved for special forces units, but regular infantry unit would also use this. The situation is also like, it seems to be that my squad is the first squad to enter. And every other entry is an additional squad to secure the building. Yeah, strange situation. I used a ladder to climb into the kitchen, but the rest of my squad is already there. They came there from the basement. So yeah, the devs only wanted to show that they have the ladder. It feels pretty useless, this climbing exercise. So you try to stay as long as possible quiet, so it's a good decision to take her out quietly and fix her. So that's the point where it's different to a police mission, or the obvious point. A police unit would give them the possibility to surrender, and but that's a pretty obvious situation. They have guns, they're talking about terrorist stuff, and we are here for the intels, not to make them to better persons, and to be the arm of the law. We are here for a specific purpose, and that's not to arrest these people. They are just obstacles. So first shots are fired. Now everybody in the building knows you're there, even especially after the flashbang is going off. That's a common misconception about silenced guns. They aren't that quiet, only a bit more quiet, but everyone in the building will know that somebody shoots a gun. Not because they hear the shot, they will hear all the additional noises around it, like the impact of the bullet or the noises the hidden victims made, like shouting or falling to the ground. They will notice it, but after situations like that, your squad should climb down and use and listen to what happened in the building. With a good Dolby headset, you will hear the steps of the enemies down up there. You hear them talking, you hear them their preparations. The enemy now knows you are there. It makes sense that after you secure the main door, that the additional squad will enter it. What makes no sense is that they are waiting there. I don't think that they are that stupid, those enemies, that they don't take they don't look to the front door if somebody is there, and it's pretty obvious when there's a unit with night vision goggles and rifles. So that's okay. Stairs are always a critical situation. It's important in urban operations, or especially inside buildings, to have control over the stairs. It's in most cases, in most buildings, the only way to transition between the different levels of a building, and so it's very important to have the control over the stairs. But you shouldn't stay too long on the stairs. It's a fatal tunnel. The enemy knows that it's a critical situation simply for you. You're tied together. One guy with an automatic rifle can take out your whole squad, and there are nearly infinite angles you can be attacked from. When you enter a new level, you have to categorize what's the next important thing. First thing, you need to spread out a bit. You should stay on the end of the stairs and wait. You need to get distance from each other, and one operator has the specific job to secure the entries to the next level, so that nobody can come down. And The next thing you take are open doors, like here. This door is open, and after that you take care of the closed doors. Yeah, that's I like it how it's animated. It's pretty well animated and looks very natural. He swaps back when he gets fired because he's scared. I don't know. I don't know how long you have to train before you stay cool and don't flip back when somebody fired at you. Every instructor will tell you, facing the threat, go for the enemy. There is no time to think, just time to act. And in a firefight, everything will potentially kill you, including doing nothing. So he has no time to stay back in cover and think about, oh, what should I do? Should I throw a flashbang or should I call for my teammates? So he flip back, him down, eliminate him and clear the room. The only thing I would do different, I wouldn't pop out of the same spot. I would pop down a bit deeper so that I might be under his line of sight. So I have a greater advantage, a small advantage over him in this situation. The animations are extremely good. In this case, for example, he spreads his legs a bit more because he don't want to stand on the dead body. Yeah, now it's up to the player to clear the next room. A typical hostage situation. And at the moment she grabs the gun, she also becomes a baddie. I don't think my girlfriend would do that for me. That's also pretty typical for urban operations, for room clearing. The fight takes not place in the rooms, it takes place in between the rooms. So the enemy will usually shoot at you before you enter the room, and you don't wait until you enter the room. He knows there's a bottleneck. The doors, it's a fatal tunnel. He knows that. That's the best situations to engage you. So let's talk about this green lights coming out of the rifle. It's a common question I get asked. What is this? How does it work? It's usually an accessory, just a laser light combination with an infrared laser. It's only visible through a night vision goggle and visible red laser and a flashlight. Without that, it would be impossible to use a rifle like this with night vision. The night vision, as you can see here, pretty good. It's impossible to look through the night vision and the red dot. And if you can't aim a gun, you can't use it. It's necessary in an operation like this. And you have a little advantage over the enemy because he can't see anything. It's pitch black for him. So, you might notice there were some step noises inside that room, and I mentioned earlier it's important to block the way to the next level, but they also can do that from here, and there's no reason to go in front of that door and be that unsafe. And now you get this package for that less preparation. Another question I get often asked is, what happened when I shoot with that gun on that surface and that material? And to be honest, I don't know. I'm often surprised by myself what happened when I shoot at specific things. But 5.56 round would usually more penetrated with a small hole and not that big pieces. But it depends on the material. It depends on the distance, the angle you hit it, the gun, the material. But it can't happen. I saw it with more like when you rapid firedly with a machine gun that big pieces will junk out of the door. But a few shots aren't enough usually to blow that big holes inside the door. A short detail I also like about the situation is Captain capturing prize shouting at you, get in there, and usually you should always keep in a firefight, you need to keep the pressure on the enemy. Don't let them decide for you. You should decide what the next step is, and getting the enemy in an uncomfortable situation when you are in an uncomfortable situation. This guy is wounded, but I think he will make it. Pretty strange, because we're in the Call of Duty world. Usually he just needs to wait for 6 seconds and then his health is refilled, but in this situation it seems to be you need a medic. And at the moment you are hurt, you are just an obstacle for your team. They will drag you back to the next squad. That squad will drag you back until you reach to an ambulance. So I switched to the Kilo 141. That's I think it's the H&K 443. It's a prototype gun of H&K. It's a mix between the 416 and 336. Yeah, that's the thing I like about Call of Duty. They often adapt some prototype things they see somewhere, some gun nerd stuff, and implemented it into their games. In this game, they did a pretty good job at that the modification options are realistic and not too fancy. That's the thing I like about the new Call of Duty. But still, in my opinion, not the best choice. And 5.56 rifle in an indoor environment isn't the best choice, because it's simply too fast, too powerful. On hard surfaces, the projectiles would ricochet. It would be a nightmare to shoot full auto in a room with hard surfaces. The chance is pretty high that you hurt yourself and everybody else. And that's the reason why police units and units who are that close to the enemy would prefer a gun with a lower bullet velocity and a lower caliber, like an MP5. But I know some of you would say, but special forces unit, blah blah blah, use blah 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 for their missions. Yes, but some special forces units suffer. They take that risk. They take this compromise because they need it to even reach the building, and they need maybe to fight from that building out again. So they are in need of this kind of rifles. But a police unit in this kind of situation isn't. They don't need a 5.56 rifle. It's simply too much. So as higher you get on a building, the more desperate the enemy will become. And the chances is, this higher you come, you more will facing civilian people who aren't armed, because they will have more time to flee up and stay there, and you need to be more careful with your trigger finger, who you shoot, who you not shoot. This guy, I take him out pretty quickly because I know what happened. Usually he crawls under the bed and waiting for you there. That's a pretty good example how desperate the enemy becomes as higher you get. He will hide under beds. He will hide in very unfair situations. It's usually never that the enemy will facing you in a fair way. They will do everything to improve their chances to eliminate you and to survive. So we are close to the last level of the building. That's even for a military unit and an infantry unit in a regular fight. That's the last chance to offer the enemy the possibility to surrender, because they have nowhere to run. And in some cases it can't happen, but in this case we are facing terrorists, and they might prefer to die before surrender to you. I like the detail of the night vision goggle with this 4 things. I'm not sure how it calls, but I think it could be pretty realistic that there's a light sensor built in there. I'm more used to the Lucy. The Lucy is a bit smaller and don't has the capability of 3D view, and it has a much smaller field of view than this night vision goggle. But it's also very much lighter and much smaller, and in my opinion, a bit better for military purpose. But there's a reason why so many special forces units prefer this night vision. The tool Captain Price is using there is a mulligan tool, or also called hooligan tool. It's very often used for law enforcement, rescue forces, firefighters to open doors. It's a pretty handy tool for opening pull doors, push doors, car doors. It's up to your imagination what kind of doors you can open with it. The only downside I see with it is it's relatively heavy and big, and on a longer military mission I wouldn't take it with me, but for this kind of mission it's a perfect tool. So, last attempt. She seems to be the last survivor of this group. Her body language is pretty clear. She was looking for something, and she looks back on the table for something. And yes, even Captain Price says we have to take her out. A police unit would have a much more opportunities, like a taser or a pepper spray, to take her out, or maybe a shot in the leg would take her out. But yes, it's a video game. They can't simulate everything. So that's the only really bullshit scene here, where I think that's not very, very realistic. A good trained operator would never touch this trigger, especially when it looks that obvious, like a trigger for an explosive. You don't know how it works, you don't know what it does. Maybe it's activated on touching, you have no clue. A good operator wouldn't touch the thing. It's the job for EOD. The moment you realize there are hidden explosives, there is some kind of equipment, you don't know how it works, don't touch it. And even if you know how it works, you still don't touch it. It's too dangerous to be victim operated. You don't know what the first setting is. Maybe she was trying to disarm it. No plan. You don't touch it. Don't take it to your teammates and show them, oh, look what I have found, the trigger. But in the end, it's a very cool mission. I like it, how it's made. I love to play it. There's also an additional mission in that game, who make much more sense because it's in another country. It's more for a military unit. Yes, let me think what you answer in the comment what you think about my commentary. Yes. Thank you for watching. Hit the subscribe button if you like. I will do this kind of videos more in the future, because I'm trapped in my home like the rest of the world because of this corona zombies out there. And see you.